My main products feature a strong house style. I have followed this style through onto my ancillary products to keep a significant link between the brand, as this was a convention I observed professional magazine brands doing as a sales technique for their products. Looking at my finished products, now they are done, I think that through creative media language choices, my combination of products look very effective together and represent my target audience by creating a shared sense of regional identity that links to Higson's theory, whilst also connoting a fresh young product that ties into Oscarby's theory. To sell through repetition and to create a memorable, effective brand image that connoted my hybrid genre, I kept certain things the same across my products. Firstly, to give the viewers a good perspective on what to expect from my brand, I called my product Running Kerno, as the Lexus clearly showed the hybrid genre. I created a logo using this font that remains the same throughout all of my main and ancillary products, and this ensures that the combination of main and ancillary text is very effective. Secondly, I made sure that my colour palette of black, white, burgundy and yellow remained the same across my print magazine, billboard and website products to represent my audience who wanted a hybrid genre that gave them a sense of regional pride and an entertaining and informative read about modern running. Keeping these colours the same created a consistent, fresh and professional effect for my brand while following conventions I had observed in both running and regional magazine genres. My colour palette is one of my favourite aspects of my work this year, as I think it makes all of my work look unique and yet professional. Thirdly, to create a recognisable house style, I kept my Lexus and typography choices similar across all of my products. As I said earlier, in terms of Lexus, I did this by using words from the semantic fields of both Cornwall and running in combination with modern, informal language my target audience would find entertaining. This means that my products, when viewed side by side, all have a fresh, youthful, energetic feel in terms of Lexus choices. Regarding my font choices, I chose fonts that fitted with the running genre, but that were also gender neutral and linked a bit to regional conventions insofar as some were from traditional font families in the Cornish flag colours. As to my layout choices, my audience research showed me that my target audience would be mostly upper to middle class. Research into my magazine products for this demographic taught me that the best way to represent this group was to let imagery dominate the layout and to use text to make the product look busy enough to entertain a younger target market, but not too rammed as this lost the sophistication and style upper to middle class readers were drawn to. Overall, I think my layouts are effective and all look like they belong to the same brand, as I have used imagery along with white space to make my product look fresh, unique and modern. As I said earlier, my imagery has kept a consistent style across my magazine, website and billboard, as I wanted to create a recognisable house style that represented my audience. To get my images, I spent 6 months taking images of runners at events and during training sessions to get my sports photography skills up to the required standard. I also researched traditional Cornish regional photography and tried to let this influence some of my imagery to connote the hybrid genre in my work. Overall, I think my images across my products look effective and show the target audience that this is a high-quality magazine that represents their needs better than a national or international publication, because it is a regional running magazine that understands how to represent them. In short, I am pleased with the image house style I have achieved across my products and think it looks very effective and professional. Overall, I think the combination of my products works well to create a unique persona for my brand and will attract my target audience of Cornish runners, as the effective use of media language across my main and ancillary texts creates a brand image and lifestyle that they will want to buy into. Regarding audience feedback, at AS I learned that it was important to take your audience into consideration at every stage of planning and production. What this meant at A2 was that I took extra care at every stage of my product and conducted primary audience research using SurveyMonkey and social media to ensure that my work would really represent my audience. The first thing I found out from my audience research was that my primary target audience would be Cornish runners in social grades B to C1 of both genders aged between 18 and 24 years. This taught me that all my media language choices would need to be based around representing this demographic, but to ensure it did, I kept doing surveys to ensure I was actually giving my audience a product that would represent them. The questions I asked were about all aspects of media language, including layout, colour palette, fonts, features, article topics, images and lots more, as you can see from my products and from the screenshots on my planning blog that show how my work has changed and evolved each time I received feedback. My target audience influenced all of my media language choices, and I was quick to make changes if my audience did not like something. In short, as you can see from my planning blog and work, my audience had some creative say in my magazine name, font choices, article themes, colour palette, image subject matter and layouts. This gave me the best possible chance of launching a product that would represent my audience. From my final focus group research and SurveyMonkeys, I learned the following about my main and ancillary tasks. 100% of the people in my audience said that my magazine, website and billboard looked like they were from the same brand. From this, I learnt that I had been successful in creating a recognisable professional brand image to attract my target audience. 100% of my primary target audience were happy with my colour palette across my products because this has shown that my research and work has paid off. 90% said that they were happy with my imagery. This taught me I had learned a lot about sports photography and regional magazine image conventions in order to successfully replicate these styles professionally in my own work. 80% said that they liked my masthead, however, as 20% were not sure of it. From this, I have learned that if I had more time, I should spend more time developing my masthead design. 90% of people surveyed said that they liked my article choices and Lexis. This was reassuring and showed all my research into existing magazines had paid off as I had successfully matched the style my audience wanted to see. Overall, 100% said that they would buy my magazine if it was launched, and 100% of those surveyed said that they would visit my website if I were to launch it for real. This was really reassuring because it showed me I had produced a product that had an audience and had done so in a way that would represent and attract readers. This audience feedback shows my project has been a success and I have actually made a professional product that would potentially make a profit if launched. During the planning stages, I had to get to grips with any changes to Blogger, SurveyMonkey and ThingLink that had happened since I used the programs to complete my planning at AS. I certainly found using these programs was easier this year as I knew what worked well and what did not. I used my blog skills when applying for universities to create an online portfolio of my work, and this shows how skills I learned during my AS and A2 can be used in the real world to get into further programs of study or for job applications. Regarding production and post-production, I did not do media at GCSE, so completing my print music magazine foundation portfolio last year was quite challenging, and partly because of this and partly because I wanted to learn about web design, I chose to work in print again this year following the regional magazine brief. This meant that a lot of the technology I used this year was more familiar to me, which meant instead of having to spend a lot of time learning the basics, I was able to get to grips more with advanced photography and editing techniques. For my photography that took place in the product part of my project this year, I worked with the 6D and 5D Mark III Canon cameras. However, unlike last year when I was doing mostly studio photography, I had to learn to work with the lenses more suitable to sports photography. I had to get used to working with the camera set in action mode and had to get used to the advantages and pitfalls of natural lighting. The key thing I learned to do with sports photography was that timing is key to everything, and to get the right shot, you have to be in the right spot with the camera positioned at the right angle before the subject comes into frame. What was challenging as well was getting used to working with a 300mm lens, as this worked best when using two tripods, which took longer to set up. Also, this kit was quite heavy, which meant going a long way with it took time. I would say it took me 2 to 3 months and thousands of images to start getting images I was happy with, but I think this was time well spent as I'm going to do a media degree next year and may want to work in sports journalism after my degree. I also took images in studio conditions of training kit for my website. I found this a lot easier than the sports photography as it was just revisiting skills from last year. Once I had my images, I used Photoshop and InDesign to create my print products. These programs were programs I had learned how to use last year, so I just needed to refresh my knowledge in Photoshop of things like cropping and resizing images, using the blemish tool, using the eraser tools, and using filters. Regarding InDesign, I again used my knowledge of how to use grids to make sure my text columns were all in alignment, to make sure my layout did not look disproportionate. However, I did progress quite a bit in InDesign this year as I really pushed myself to experiment with more creative layouts to give my work a more professional edge. A new software program I had to get to grips with that I'd never used before was Dreamweaver. To learn how to use this to make my website, I attended a day workshop and after-school clinic, learned from my teachers and looked at online tutorials. I spent 2 months actually building my website as not everything worked or looked right first time. I think now I have basic understanding of basic coding techniques and understand how to add images and text to create professional layouts. I think making my website using Dreamweaver was one of my favourite experiences this year, as I think I made a lot of progress learning new skills to do with this technology. I think my website looks really professional, especially considering this was the first time I had tried to make one, and I definitely look forward to working in this medium again during my degree. Getting to actually put my website onto the internet also meant that I proved Gauntlet's 2002 theory, as I effectively became a producer of a media text that would be seen by real audience. In addition, I also learned how to edit footage in iMovie for this evaluation and upload my movie to YouTube. This is further example of useful skills I will be able to use in the future, as I am now confident that if I make an advert or short film, I could film it and distribute it using these technologies. Looking back at my work, overall, I'm really happy with the progress I've made this year, and I think I've achieved my personal aims of learning more about using technology to create professional-looking print and web products.